2021 is coming to an end, and that means it's time for me to start talking about my favorite films of the year. But before I get into my final top 10, which was actually pretty challenging to make, I wanted to talk about 10 other really great films that didn't quite make the cut, but absolutely deserve your love and attention. So here are my top 10 most underrated movies of 2021. Encounter is a dramatic thriller that came out earlier this month, and while the trailer and the premise might make you think it's pretty standard sci-fi, I promise you there is more to it than meets the eye. Starring Riz Ahmed, Encounter is about a US Marine who is on a mission to protect his two young sons from an otherworldly threat. He decides to take them on what he tells them is a road trip, but as time goes on, the situation becomes a lot more dangerous and complicated. I don't really want to tell you more than that because discovering what's happening is part of the experience, but I do strongly recommend leaving your expectations behind when it comes to this thriller. As I already mentioned, there is more to this film than initially meets the eye, and the movie you end up with is not the one you might expect at the beginning, but that is actually a good thing. What I can tell you though is that at the core of Encounter is a very human, heartfelt story about a complicated relationship between a father and his sons. Riz Ahmed delivers yet another layered, passionate, compelling performance, and the two child actors are excellent as well. The film's ending might feel a bit abrupt, but leading up to it, the movie finds a great balance between being emotional and tense. If you're looking for a powerful thriller that has more to offer than just suspense, definitely give Encounter a watch. Oxygen, on the other hand, is for those of you who are in search of a great claustrophobic sci-fi thriller. Directed by Alexandre Aja, this French film is going to get your heart rate up, but will also keep you guessing as to what is actually going on. Here, a woman wakes up in a cryogenic pod with no recollection of who she is or how she got there, and she does not know how to get out, which is a problem because she is running out of oxygen. As the movie goes on, we, along with the lead character, start putting together what's happening and how she ended up in this situation, and while you may be able to guess some of the reveals, there will still be plenty of twists that will absolutely deliver. The second half of this film in particular took me by surprise, not only because of the plot twists themselves, but also because of the emotional impact they ended up having on me, which I did not expect. And speaking of delivering, Oxygen is starring Melanie Laurent, who is incredibly intense in this role. She's interesting, she's smart, and her character is 100% someone you want to root for, which is crucial in a film like this because the vast majority of the time is spent with this character in an enclosed space. It's easily one of the best thrillers of the year, combining tension, mystery, sci-fi, and a compelling lead character. And you can stream it on Netflix, so you don't even have to leave your couch to experience it. I do have a full review for Oxygen on my channel, so I will be linking that down in the info box below, along with any other reviews I have for some of the movies I'm talking about today. Don't forget to check those out for my more detailed thoughts once you're done with this video. Now, let's take a break from thrillers for a few minutes and talk about 9 Days, one of the most unique films that came out this year that unfortunately pretty much went unnoticed. The story is about a man, played by Winston Duke, whose job is to judge souls before they're allowed to inhabit a body. In this case, over the course of, you guessed it, 9 days, he has to choose one candidate out of 5 to actually be born as a human being. This film is absolutely magical. It's an introspective, emotional, thought-provoking journey and a a fascinating concept. It's about empathy and finding meaning in life. It forces you to stop and think about the type of person you are and the effect your actions might be having on others. It's a film that wants to explore how humanity clashes with difficult things such as loss, violence, loneliness, and cruelty. What happens if a soul is too gentle or too trusting or too numb or treated unkindly? 9 Days is a beautiful exploration of life, death, humanity, and what kind of person it takes to survive the modern world. Plus, let's not forget about the incredibly talented ensemble cast. I already mentioned Winston Duke, but it also includes Benedict Wong, Zazie Beetz, Bill Skarsgård. The film is truly a treat, and if you're looking for a unique, underrated gem that will leave you thinking, you should absolutely check this one out. The Electrical Life of Louis Wain is a quirky, creative biopic that matches the eccentric personality of its subject perfectly. Also, it has cats, so that's an almost automatic win. Benedict Cumberbatch plays Louis Wain, the English artist who conquered Victorian London through his paintings of cats. As his life went on and his mental health declined, his paintings became more surreal, but through his work, he was able to create an absolutely unique and unforgettable world that hasn't been done before. The film is charming and has an almost whimsical feel to it, not just when it comes to the visuals, which often look like a painting to begin with, but also the actual tone, the colors, the atmosphere, the humor, the personal moments it chooses to focus on. It all adds up to this absolutely delightful experience. There is so much heart and warmth here, and even in its sad moments, it feels beautiful and hopeful. I did not expect The Electrical Life of Louis Wain to tug at my heartstrings as much as it did, and now I can't recommend it enough. Also, while The Power of the Dog is Benedict Cumberbatch's performance of the year, do not underestimate him here. He is fantastic in this film, and so are Claire Foy and Andrea Riseborough, who is a chameleon of an actress. If you enjoy beautiful period pieces or films about artists, you cannot miss this one. Now, I have to talk about Mass once again because it is absurdly underrated despite featuring some of the best performances of the year. If you're looking for a dialogue-heavy drama that is not afraid to tackle a difficult topic, Mass is definitely the film for you. It's about 4 grieving parents on different sides of an awful tragedy who sit down to have a very difficult conversation. The parents of the victim are meeting the parents of the perpetrator face to face. The story unfolds through this conversation. There are no flashbacks. The movie lets the writing and the amazing performances do the work. Jason Isaacs, Martha Plimpton, Ann Dowd, and Reed Birney are all absolutely brilliant, delivering heartbreaking, emotionally charged, remarkable performances. The film doesn't aim to judge or moralize because the topic of a school shooting is a complicated one. Instead, it approaches the topic with nuance. It starts a conversation that needs to be had, and it explores it from different perspectives, highlighting the desire to find someone to blame as well as the need for closure. Obviously, Mass is a difficult film to watch. It's powerful and incredibly impactful. It hits you hard, and there are plenty of moments that are simply gut-wrenching, but if you're up for it, you are really in for something special. Back to thrillers, and the Danish, darkly comedic but also thought-provoking Riders of Justice is another one that has a lot more to offer than you might initially think. Riders of Justice starts off with a horrible, deadly accident, then implies it may not have been an accident at all and steers you into thinking this is a revenge thriller, and in the meantime becomes a moving story about family, healing, communicating, and meaning of life? How is that for a layered thriller? And as I mentioned, dark humor is also a big part of all of this. There's a lot going on. At first, you might think that revenge and those more dramatic themes wouldn't necessarily make a good pairing, but the bittersweet story this film is going for blends all of this perfectly. Nothing here is as simple as it seems, including the characters, and that's what makes Riders of Justice such a fascinating movie to watch. Well, and Mads Mikkelsen. This is an absolute must-watch for any Mads Mikkelsen fan out there. Even though this film goes a little bit overboard when it comes to body count and violence, that doesn't take away from its quality, and the movie ends up being a very meaningful and surprisingly life-affirming story full of action, drama, and flawed but lovable characters. Do not miss out on this one. The Night House is one of the best horror films of the year, but even when it comes to horror fans, this haunted house story didn't quite get the love and attention it deserved. The Night House is one of those films that works on multiple levels. You can see it as a straightforward, chilling, mysterious ghost story, and you will be satisfied. But this is also a story about grief, loneliness, mortality, and relationships. It's a story of a woman left alone in a lakeside house as she's struggling with an unexpected death of her husband. No matter how you choose to look at it, it's a stunning, atmospheric, eerie, and creepy film with an outstanding lead performance from Rebecca Hall. As she goes down the rabbit hole of discovering her dead husband's dark side she was not aware of, she herself begins to unravel and question everything she knows. And we, as the audience, begin to question what we're seeing because Beth is clearly becoming an unreliable narrator. Part ghost story, part metaphoric psychological thriller, The Night House isn't your average supernatural horror film, and it's worth your attention whether you're a fan of the genre or not. It's chilling and thought-provoking. It's a mystery and a personal drama. It plays with your perception of space and reality, and while it still uses a few well-placed jump scares here and there, most of the horror elements are approached in a visually creative way. And speaking of creativity, Violet shows anxiety and self-sabotage in a way unlike anything you've seen before, bringing in some experimental and more artistic elements to convey a state of mind, but without making them feel overwhelming. This film really stuck with me, and I suspect anyone who has ever felt lost on their way through life will connect with it because Violet is an honest look at fear, doubt, and self-sabotage. The story is about a woman who hears this guiding voice inside her head, telling her what she should be doing and what other people are probably thinking about her. It essentially confronts the viewers with their inner monologue and challenges them to consider whether they're living their lives in a way that's true to who they are or if they're following the voice of fear and doubt. Olivia Munn stars as the titular character, and she is amazing in this role. The way Violet struggles to connect with people, to stand up for herself, to be honest about what she actually wants and feels is an authentic portrayal of how powerful that self-deprecating voice inside your head can be. As for the more creative elements, whether it's on-screen text, the use of color, or chaotic additional footage, all of these things serve to create a cohesive portrait of a woman struggling to connect not only with others, but also with herself. It's a beautifully done film many people would relate to. The Lost Leonardo is a documentary that might as well be a thriller. Documentaries are generally rarely mentioned in best of the year lists for some reason, but this one needs to be talked about because it is genuinely captivating from start to finish. The Lost Leonardo revolves around Salvator Mundi, the most expensive painting ever sold, despite the fact that there were and still are a lot of questions about whether or not it actually is the lost work of Leonardo da Vinci. There are so many things at play here. At first, it seems to be a pretty straightforward story about discovery, restoration, and validation of a painting, which is already already interesting, considering that unless there is some incredible scientific breakthrough in the future, there is no way anyone can 100% verify this is indeed a Da Vinci painting. Then it enters the world of art dealing, which, to my surprise, turned out to be a much more mysterious and a much less regulated thing than I anticipated. From there, the story unfolds into mystery, investigation, politics, power plays. You just have to see it for yourself. If this was a fictional thriller, people would say there are too many plot twists and half of them are ridiculous. But this is a documentary, it's a true story, and it has what most thrillers wish they could pull off. Absolutely fascinating from beginning to end. Last, but certainly not least, we need to talk about Last Night in Soho. Unlike other films on this list, Edgar Wright's latest isn't exactly underwatched, but in my opinion, it is very much underappreciated and criticized way too harshly. For Edgar Wright, Last Night in Soho is another step towards horror. While he has made horror films in the past, this is his first attempt at a more classic horror film. The story is about a girl, Eloise, who goes to London to study fashion design, and every night she mysteriously finds herself transported to the 1960s. There, she follows an irresistible young blonde, Sandy, and soon finds out that 60s London isn't quite the romanticized version of the place so many people feel nostalgic for. What Eloise discovers is manipulation, broken dreams, and murder as past fuses with present and her dreams begin bleeding into her everyday life. The movie is, of course, stunning to look at. It's an unforgettable, ambitious, wild ride that deserves to be seen and appreciated. But as the story goes on, things begin getting a lot more sinister, and by the third act, we descend into a full-blown nightmare along with Eloise. This third act has been a big point of criticism, which personally I can't entirely agree with. Perhaps not everyone was ready for it to take as dark of a turn as it did, or some of the final events of the film didn't feel satisfying, but I think while the logic isn't as airtight as it could have been, it still makes sense, and at no point did the events feel in conflict with the rest of the film to me. Whether you look at Last Night in Soho as a cautionary tale about nostalgia and romanticizing the past, the harsh realities of chasing your dreams in the big city, or something that sheds light on the ongoing cycle of violence, the film works as a unique, memorable story that's simultaneously beautiful and terrifying as it reveals the darkness behind the neon lights. And that is it for this video. Let me know what you guys think are some of the most underrated and underappreciated gems of the year. Thank you so much for watching. As always, a special thank you to all my patrons for supporting me on Patreon, with an extra special thank you to the patrons whose names are on the screen right now. And I hope all of you are having a wonderful day. I will see you very soon in my next video. Всем пока!